Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone once again, ready to talk some more Watchmen with my favorite Fandom Zoner and fellow Watchmen watcher, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am good, Charles. Who watches The Watchmen? We watch
Right.
The Watchmen because it is awesome.
Exactly. So today here at episode 167 of the Phantom Zone, we're going to talk She Was Killed by Space Junk, the third episode of Watchmen Season 1. We don't know if there's going to be a second season, but for right now, Season 1. Written by Damon Lindelof, showrunner, and Lila Bayek this time. Damon has a hand in all the episodes, but apparently has co-writers on each of them. So I don't know how much he contributes. Maybe he just kind of like adds some dialogue here and there. Who knows? But just thought I'd mention that. Directed by Stephen Williams. And in this one, we get the big introduction of Jean Smart as Laurie, not, Laurie Jupiter or Laurie Juspicek, but
Yes.
Laurie Blake. And we'll talk more about that here shortly.
Yes.
Who I thought did a phenomenal job. And I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so I mentioned in the last episode that HBO had an official podcast.
Yes.
And I certainly recommend everyone listen to us first.
Yes.
And then go listen to, and I did listen to this. I finished. And so as we reach a couple of points, I'll share what Lindelof had to say about but I can address right now. He said in this, the guy interviewing him talked about you, and Lindelof says, I keep saying we, and I can't stress how much this writer's room was a team effort, that everything they've kind of worked together to do. So this sounds like one of those deals where often in a writer's room, you kind of all break down story, and then you go, okay, hey, Charles, you go take first pass at this.
Yes.
And then they come back. So this sounds very much like a team group. And as we suspected, they wrote all the episodes first before they started filming, and I'll give you when you get to a certain topic, I'll give you a little more details about that.
Okay, so they should be kicking us a couple of bucks, don't you think, for promoting their podcast?
Absolutely,
especially on our podcast. What's up with that? So this time, Jean Smart's really the primary character introduced this week, but we also get the introduction of Dustin Ingram as Dale Petey. Now, Jean Smart, obviously, if you're a fan of the FX series Legion, as Jesse and I am, you know her as Melanie Bird on that series, and she did a phenomenal job on that. She was also on Fargo, and I've known her since all the way back in the 80s when she was all the way on the CBS sitcom Designing Women.
Yeah, I think that's where she first got her awareness, probably.
Right. Her big break, yeah.
Yeah, she is, I totally agree with you, absolutely wonderful in Legion. She was great in Fargo. She is a really powerful actress, and she brings it in this role that I really, really am glad she's doing this. This has been really nice.
Yeah, she seems to have a really great knack for quirky, offbeat comic book TV shows. As anyone who's watched Legion knows, and we've talked about that here when Karen was doing the podcast with me here on the Phantom Zone. But she's got an affinity for it. Her comedic timing is spot on.
Yeah, she was certainly from Designing Women known as a comedian. Mm-hmm. She was in Frasier. But then one of her first dramatic roles that I knew her of is when she played the First Lady in 24. She played Martha Logan,
right,
the wife of President Logan. And she was a very
formidable.
Yeah, well, no, she was a very fractured
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a tortured soul, and she played that really, really well. So, yeah, I just think she's added so much into this. Really, really good stuff.
Okay. So that's cool to know.
Hmm.
Dustin Ingram, who's playing Dale Petey, like I said, he's been on episodes of The Magicians, if you're a fan of that show, the sci-fi
Okay.
series. He's also been on the Fox series Bones, and he was also on HBO's True Blood back in the day.
Okay.
So nothing really of note, but he was the characters on those shows. Um,
He was really, he's really good in this.
yes,
He really brings it, and then of course, he is the reason we have supposedly Pedopedia.
yes, yes. Yeah. So we've talked about that. Pete, thank you for bringing that up. Pedopedia is this kind of supplemental website that HBO has cooked up for fans of the show to kind of get some supplemental material. And so you go there, you can kind of get some background information. And each time, after each episode airs, they kind of post another file filled with a few documents here and there to kind of give you a little bit more background information. It's kind of like supplemental material, just like in
Yeah.
the comic book series that we talked about by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, that they kind of did back matter, and you kind of got to dive a little deeper without it affecting the central storyline.
Yeah. And that's why, all kidding aside, with you joking about talking about another
Yeah,
podcast,
right,
this show is so dense and greatness
right.
that, you know, every time you reread Watchmen, you find something new. I think anytime we rewatch these episodes,
Yes.
we're going to see something new. This is,
Or stuff
they,
you missed, didn't
yes,
catch the first
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I got a couple of little bits of trivia before we get into
Okay,
our main topics. I thought I'd mention.
good.
Trivia topic number one. The title of the episode: "She was killed by space junk." Named after a lyric from the Devo song "Space Junk" from their 1978 album. Question: Are we not men? Answer: We are Devo, which is
Yes,
a classic album from back in the late '70s. Kind of when that kind of shift from punk to new wave was taking
yes,
place. And Devo, I'm a huge fan of the band because, hey, they're from Akron, Ohio,
nice.
right outside of yours truly's neighborhood that I grew up in as a kid. So while I was going to elementary school in Medina, Ohio, then Devo was out there playing and making it big from Akron. So it kind of a little Ohio flavor in this one. And of course,
I
Devo gets a little shout out later in the episode when Laurie's listening to the song Mongoloid by Devo,
what I found interesting,
which is
and
also on
this,
that same album, by the way.
yeah, which is interesting and kind of a comment.
Mm-hmm.
They've established through either supplemental material, there is no internet in this version of America,
Right.
but they do have voice recognition software enough for her to say whatever their version of Alexis is to say,
Yes.
play Devo,
Right.
which is
Which is
a
kind of
little,
it's
yeah,
it doesn't quite click.
no,
Like how
it
can you have
doesn't.
how
Yeah,
can you have one without the other?
yes,
Yeah.
I thought that too.
Yeah, no, one of the things that, in the supplemental material, if you read some of the memos by Petey there that Petey posts, they talk about how the technology was suppressed
Yeah,
because they were afraid that the technology was what brought the squid
yes,
into this dimension, not knowing, of course, that it was Adrian that did that,
yeah,
genetically engineered it.
yeah,
Another bit of trivia. So when Laurie's telling her joke and finishing her joke, and she says the words "roll on snare, curtains, good joke." That, if you're a fan of the Watchmen comic book, you picked up on right away because that was a nod to Rorschach when in his journal when he was writing about the joke about Pagliacci the clown
right.
in the original comic book series. So where the joke that like Pagliacci's all upset. He goes to the doctor, and like he says he's depressed, and the doctor says, "Well, hey, why don't you go see Pagliacci the clown? That'll pick you up." And Pagliacci says, "But doctor, I am Pagliacci."
Yes.
Yeah. So great joke. Yeah, roll on
Yes.
snare, curtains, good joke. So
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that. All right.
No, I agree.
So 3 topics. I do have a theme this week,
Oh, okay.
but we'll see if Jesse picks up on it. So topic number 1, through being cool.
Now, this is where I'm always tempted to Google the lyrics,
Yes.
but I don't cheat. So,
Yes.
Okay, very nice.
Yes. Well, sometimes you do. I hear you clacking away sometimes.
But not always about that. I'm doing something else, looking up to talk.
So you're multitasking. You're not even focusing on what I'm doing.
Oh no, I'm doing work so that I can rise to your level of greatness.
Oh, please. All right. Now you're just kind of blowing smoke up me.
No.
All right.
Hey, if you're a fan of Charles like I am, you may check out Set Lusting Bruce this week. There may be a Charles and Laurie episode coming out.
Okay. Well, that's a sly little self-promotion there.
But it's all about you.
Well, but you used me as a way to self-promote your podcast. I see what you did there. Very clever. So,
all right.
Anyway,
so our first topic. What do we got?
First topic, through being cool.
Okay.
And this I want to talk about. Obviously, we got to talk right off the bat about Laurie, Blake, and Dale Petey.
Yeah.
So this is primarily, introducing us to Laurie Blake, who obviously is, 33, 34 years down the road from the original Watchmen series, from when she was playing, the original series, she was Silk Spectre, a vigilante that had retired because of the Keene Act, and then kind of gets back into her skimpy costume to get back because she's kind of, she kind of misses it, and she's a little turned on. It kind of arouses her a little bit, and that's obviously something that factors in a little bit here.
Mm-hmm. It in the original series, toward the end,
right?
Laurie makes a comment about, I think I want a gun,
right?
Which was she originally was very much her mother's child,
right?
And now then she has switched to
she took on her mother's secret identity.
Yeah,
she was her successor.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a stage mom type thing, groomed to be her replacement.
And then she did and she used her mother's last name.
Right.
So now then you can see she has embraced her father, who was the comedian, and taken on his last name.
Right.
Blake.
Yes. Which is interesting because, there's there's all that bad history toward her.
Yes.
And that the comedian had attempted to rape her mother.
Yes.
And then later had sex with her mother.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And fathered her in the process. And so through the course of the story, obviously that comes out. And it kind of forces, the Laurie to reevaluate the man she hated.
Yeah.
And now she's kind of taking on his name.
And it did not click to me at first. It was after a second viewing and doing some thinking that, originally in the comics she's Juice Pezic.
Yeah.
Is
just
and then
check. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's because it's juice like orange, Pez like the candy, ick like what the little girl said when the bottle spun to you. And you got that reference. So, and then I'm like, wait a minute, she's Blake. Oh my goodness, she's taken her father's name, which is very, very cool. And she's taken a little bit of his persona in the right way.
Yeah, that's one of the things you find out if you read the Pedia documents is that Laurie actually took on the identity. She changed her name from Silk Spectre to the comedian, the feminine term for comedian.
Yes.
And so presumably kind of adopted her as a successor to her father instead for a brief time until whatever happened. And Dan Dryberg, the second Night Owl, ended up in prison, and Laurie ended up working for the FBI under the name Laurie Blake.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe that was just Dan chose one option to be imprisoned, and Laurie chose the other option she was given to work for the FBI, to hunt vigilantes.
Yeah, they have irreconcilable differences. Yes.
Irreconcilable?
Yes, thank you.
That word?
Yes, that word. So
that's cute. That's adorable.
So didn't you just love Jean Smart from the beginning?
Right.
I mean, when she's foiling, they've done this setup at the bank,
right?
Where she's pretending to be a bank robber, and really it's just to catch the masked vigilante,
Mr. Shadow.
Yeah, she's. There's that great scene where one of her fellow FBI agents, like, how did you know his suit would stop the bullets? And she just doesn't acknowledge because
she didn't
care.
Yeah,
she didn't care.
No, she didn't care at all. You're right.
Yeah.
But Laurie, it's interesting because Laurie, a former vigilante, is now all in on arresting these vigilantes.
Yes.
The ones, because apparently it didn't just stop because like the original heroes from the 80s stopped being superheroes. Apparently other people, and we find out that, there's this line that Senator Keene says to Laurie about, hey, thanks for rounding up all these rich a-holes that, that fight crime, or, and so he, it's just, it just shows that there's still that desire to be superheroes, even though it's illegal.
Yeah, and she comes across very world weary,
right?
But still very good.
Because this is like Laurie with 30 years more mileage on her.
She does not appear. She has little patience with her FBI bosses.
Right.
The guy who played her boss is that guy.
Yeah.
He's been in tons of stuff. He's, and she just like rolls her eyes at him, and she's just
like, just let me do my job by myself. We can't go in there with a bunch of FBI guys.
Yeah. Very smart. Love the scenes between her and Petey.
Yes.
That is because he's holding his own with her.
Right.
Not quite equals, but he is close to it. The back and forth, and he has some good lines with her. I like their personality back and forth. That's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. She apparently chooses Petey to kind of accompany her to Tulsa.
Yeah.
To investigate Judd Crawford's murder, primarily because, hey, he's just kind of this. She considers him just the guy who works the slide projector. Meaning that my point is that she, of all the FBI agents she could have chosen that room to accompany her, she chose this guy who she presumed wouldn't be, a factor, that he's just this little nerdy guy working the slide projector. And how weird is it that they have slide projectors in 2019 in this universe? But and she kind of dismisses him, like, okay, look, if I have to take somebody, I'm going to take that guy. So leave me alone. There, I took somebody. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So here's why I think I think she picked him because she saw he was smart enough to include the Rorschach journals.
Yeah.
And so that means, and her boss, played by the David Andrews, that's the guy, Deputy Farragut, was like, this is not the 80s, but she knew that actually that was a good point. Right. And that shows to her that Petey may have some intelligence. And so that's why I think she picked him.
That's a possible. Also, I'll give you that one. That's good. Yeah. Good theory.
I also think that she also thinks she can browbeat him. But I
Manipulate.
think
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
but I do think she was like, okay, this guy actually may have some intelligent thought. We should think about that.
Okay. That's a good theory that she considers that Petey may be able to bring something to the table. I hadn't considered that because I kind of was focusing on the like, well, he's the guy that nobody cares about.
Right.
So now we know that Laurie does have a bit of a thing for nerdy guys.
Yes,
because
he does.
like Dan Dryberg,
Mm-hmm.
the original, the second Night Owl. So maybe there's a little bit of that in there as well.
I think so. I think that's
But it's
very
interesting
valid
that he talks about how, well, hey, I've got Petey that says, well, hey, like I have a PhD in history, and like she kind of dismisses him first as a fan.
Yeah, do you want my autograph?
Right.
Yeah.
And then he kind of throws that back at her later, which I thought was rather clever.
It was very clever.
She says, like, well, that was almost funny, Petey, meaning it was funny.
Yeah.
So, when he kind of calls her out. He says, look, I'm not a fan. Look, I've earned my way. I'm more than just the guy who runs the slide projector. And I don't appreciate you kind of dismissing me like that as a fan.
Yeah.
And that him standing up for himself kind of made her take a second look at him.
One of the things I thought was interesting, Charles, is they talk about her ex, and I immediately think of Dan, but it's not.
It's John.
It's Dr. Manhattan.
Right.
Is what they think of. So I always think that I thought that was pretty interesting.
That was a much more public romance.
Yes, it was.
Because, hey, he was, like the government kind of considered her like eye candy to keep Dr. Manhattan in check a little bit for them.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So, so Laurie, we kind of follow her through her world. We find out that, she's every so often she's going to phone booths around the country, or wherever she goes, that apparently are these little kind of novelty phone booths where you can supposedly call Dr. Manhattan on Mars.
Yeah.
Now, whether he's actually listening or not, nobody knows. It's kind of like talking to Santa Claus.
And so I assume it appears to me, right, that these are out there often. Don't know why.
Right.
I guess that is a thing people do. And I did not notice till the second viewing was the her seeing that phone booth, and in her mind like, oh, and that's why I need to go back later to see that.
Right.
So great scenes with the
but we kind of got the indication from her account, that she's a regular doing this. And she tells this joke. It's kind of an interesting joke because the joke is structured in such a way where it's kind of two jokes.
Yes.
And the first joke, she kind of talks about how she mangles the delivery.
Right.
That she got it wrong. So she's like, screw it. Here's the second joke. When in fact, this is an actual technique that comedians use. And I'm talking like stand-up comedians, where they kind of interrupt one joke, start telling a second joke, and then use the first joke as the payoff for that second joke.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens here. And so what did you make of that kind of three-part joke, or her second joke, and with the payoff from the first joke?
So I liked what she did there. It wasn't a very funny joke.
Right.
But I did, and I don't understand why she wants to do this.
Right.
Why it's important to her to talk to John.
Right.
Even though she even admits you're probably not listening. So yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a nice setup. It was a good for them to go back and forth between that. They talk about, she mentions without saying the names, the comedian,
right?
Night
Owl,
Ozymandias, and
she starts off with Night Owl,
Yeah.
She calls him Owl Guy.
Yes.
And then, talks about how he never killed anybody and God sends him to hell for being too soft.
Right.
And then she talks about Ozymandias, who she refers to as Smarty Pants.
Yes.
Who says he saved humanity by dropping a giant alien squid on New York City, killing 3 million people, and God declares that, hey, you're a monster, and then he sends him to hell.
Right.
Then she says the third hero was Blue God, which, of course, is Dr. Manhattan. And,
I thought that was interesting the way she said, since they're both gods, I'm going to call one of them to separate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blue God, to distinguish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so God asked Blue God how many people he killed. Manhattan says it doesn't matter. He knows God is sending him to hell no matter what because he's already there.
Right.
Referencing John kind of being temporarily, that's the word I'm looking for. Temporally,
yes.
That's easy for me to say. Temporally, in multiple places at once, or multiple times at once.
Yes.
And so God snaps his finger, sends Manhattan to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, in the end, we get the payoff where Laurie says, that there's this woman referring to her. And she's like, God didn't notice her because, hey, she was standing behind those other three.
Yes.
And so kind of referencing that, well, hey, nobody thinks about me. And, and you find out she talks about how she was the bricklayer's daughter from the first joke, the one who throws this brick up in the air. And so we finally get the payoff of that joke where the brick comes down and strikes God and kills him. He never saw it coming.
Right.
And Laurie seems to feel that that's who she is.
Yeah,
she's the one who can she's the one who can take gods down.
Yes.
And everybody underestimates her.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say one of the things I really, really liked was that when Senator Keene comes by and she makes a joke about, and you don't get to be president, he mentions, presidents can pardon anyone.
Right.
And you might be able to free your owl.
Yes.
And then
hinting, of course, that means that he can get Dan Dryberg out of prison.
And didn't you love that she actually had an owl?
Yes.
Like she takes out the little mice.
Yes.
And mouse and oh, here's your dinner.
Yeah. Well, once she took the mouse out, I figured, okay, she's got an owl.
Yeah, me too.
But I kind of thought she would name it Archie as a nod to what Dan called his ship, his owl ship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But she calls it Who, which is also a joke because it's kind of like that the joke by Abbott and Costello, that whole routine, who's on first.
Yes.
Like, what's the name of your owl? Who?
Yeah. The owl.
The name of the owl. Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. Who? That's his name.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost expect somebody to go, who, what's on second and I don't know is on third. So, so it was very Abbott and Costello. So I thought that was kind of cool. But it was pretty good. So, it's funny because he congratulates her, Keene does, on capturing Revenger. He calls her the Revenger, and she goes, no, it's just Revenger, no the.
Yeah.
And Laurie says, well, that was last month. Today was Mr. Shadow.
Yeah.
So apparently she does this pretty regularly, about once a month or so.
And didn't you love the correcting because you want to say, it's not the Batman, it's Batman or the other. That was just a really nice thought I put. I really like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Senator Keene talks about, apparently Tulsa's the only city that does this at the moment.
Right.
With the cops being masked. But he says that other cities, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Denver, want to pilot the Defense of Police Act program, the DOPA program.
Yeah. And I did love that. You called it DOPA?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is nothing I don't love about that character.
Right.
She is amazing.
Yeah. Now we'll talk about Angela in our second topic, but yeah, she obviously butts heads with Angela, and some stuff that goes on with the funeral, which we'll also talk about our second topic.
Okay.
Maybe that's a good transition.
Well, and I did want to.
Or do you want to talk about the end where the Angela's car falls out of the sky?
Right, because we ended with the episode, her grandfather being taken to the sky.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden,
Angela's grandfather, yeah.
Yes. And now the car, and just Laurie cannot stop laughing. I mean, she just, I think maybe it's because of the brick just coming back, or just the idea, how weird is it that a car falls? That was awesome.
Yeah, and you notice she looks up in the night sky and she sees Mars up because we see this little red dot, which obviously is Mars. And so she kind of presumes that, hey, John was the one who did that.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like to her. Now, whether that was the case,
yeah, we don't know yet. Right.
We don't know yet, but we do kind of know, I think.
Yes.
But it's kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah, very cool.
And she's of all, just one of these strange coincidences that happen.
Yeah.
All right.
So topic number 2.
No.
Okay.
We forgot one thing I want to talk about. Okay, so back to Petey a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So Petey and Laurie go back to the motel.
Yes, they do.
Okay, and the Laurie goes to her room first, and we finally find out what's this glowing thing in her briefcase.
Yes, we finally the answer.
Yes.
For Pulp Fiction has been answered.
Yes. Yeah.
It is a Dr. Manhattan pleasure device.
Vibrator. Yes.
Yes.
So she's got a Dr. Manhattan sized vibrator. In her, she pulls it out, and next thing you know, she's going to Dale Petey's room, and they end up in bed together with Petey wearing this little Lone Ranger mask that Laurie had teased about him early on the episode when they were flying to Tulsa.
Yes.
She says that she makes this comment like, "Look, you're a federal agent, not the effing Lone Ranger."
One of my lines. Thank you.
Well, I didn't say the whole line, so
no. Yes, absolutely.
But sorry about that. But
no.
But obviously, Laurie still has that being turned on by superheroics, and apparently, either she's still hung up on John, or maybe John's she doesn't feel truly satisfied unless she was with John. We don't know, but she still has that fetish about superheroes. That's how she gets aroused. And I thought that was interesting.
Yes, it is.
Yep. All right. So I just wanted to address that. And it's interesting that this guy that Laurie didn't really think of much early on, she turns around and has sex with, just to kind of scratch an itch, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Topic number 2, Girl You Want. So we had Through Being Cool and Girl You Want. And here I want to talk about Angela, who is the target, the girl that Laurie is after. And let's talk about Judd's funeral as well, because there's a lot going on at Judd's funeral this time. And we can talk about Laurie as well, where she interacts with Angela. And there's that immediate friction because essentially Laurie knows what Angela's up to. And I think Angela knows that Laurie knows, but she's still being evasive about it.
Yeah, I really loved this because we've the first 2 episodes, it's been Angela's story.
Right.
And she is the person, is kind of our hero and who we're cheering on.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden we get Laurie.
Yes.
And she's the hero of this episode. And so we have our 2 people kind of, and you're both cheering for both of them.
Right.
And watching them interact is just a lot of fun.
There's a lot of cat and mouse going on.
Yes, it is.
Where you have, the detective going after the criminal who's also a cop.
Yes.
But kind of up to stuff on the side.
Yes.
and Laurie being suspicious of Angela because of how Angela is behaving regarding Judd's murder and trying to cover up the whole clan robe thing and whatnot. And Laurie,
Yes.
as we gather, is very intelligent. She's very good at her job.
Yes, she is.
And Angela obviously has her hands full. So you enjoyed that whole friction. Now, obviously, we're hoping that these two will join forces at some point.
Yes, that's your hope. And they're both very smart, and there is a lot of the I know what you know, and you know that I know,
right?
Kind of that famous scene
this
on
dance.
Princess Bride.
Yes.
Yeah, and
where essentially you have Humperdinck and Wesley trying to outwit and out-anticipate the other. Yes.
Yeah. And so I love everything about this. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And also, was it Wallace Shawn's character?
Yes.
That kind of the iocane powder seed. Yes.
Yes.
Trying to
I'm just getting started.
Exactly. And they're trying to be cleverer than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Let's move on to the funeral scene. And obviously we have Laurie meeting Angela there. Angela's there with her husband. And there's
hot husband.
Yeah, that's an observation Laurie makes. She kind of wonders if Angela and Judd were having an affair on the side, but then she's like, but why? You have that hot husband.
Yes, I know. I just love that line.
Laurie gives Angela her card, and Angela's trying to act like, well, hey, I'm not with the police department anymore.
Yeah.
When, of course, Laurie knows that she is. Again, more of that cat and mouse going on. They try to say that, well, hey, we'll talk over coffee later. So at the service, Jane, Judd's wife, is thanking everybody, asks Angela to give the eulogy.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about how she and Judd made a pact after the White Night, what each of them would say at the other's funeral. So she pulls out a piece of paper. Now, while all of this is going on, there's a bomber from the 7th Cavalry crawling through a tunnel just as Angela is singing The Last Roundup by Gene Autry.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect, because I like Gene Autry.
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting. Angela, obviously doesn't seem to be in her wheelhouse, but she's still reading it out of tribute and trying to sing it. And Laurie's kind of getting into it. She starts clapping along, trying to get the other attendees to clap along with it.
Yes.
Now, meanwhile, we've got the bomber still doing his thing. Apparently dug a tunnel to this crypt that's nearby where they're having the service. And he's putting on like an explosive vest, with loaded up with bombs and whatnot, C4 presumably. And he comes out and explains that, hey, I've got like this dead man switch that, like if something happens to me, my finger takes off, or my thumb takes off the switch, everybody goes boom. Now, Senator Keene, rather interestingly, so he tries to step up and be the hero.
Yeah.
And, he's trying to say, look, we'll talk this over. Now, what was your impressions of Senator Keene? Do you think he was genuine about that? Because I'm not so sure.
See, I get the feeling,
knowing what we know about him.
Yeah, and because of all the wheels between wheels,
yes,
I'm wondering, okay, was this all a plan to make him look like a hero?
That's what I thought.
Is he somehow not a true member of the cavalry, but does he have, at least has he manipulated them somehow so that they're helping him? Because, there's that scene, he's got blood all over his, shirt,
Right.
and I'm not a hero here. We've got to do something, and the war is here. So
Yeah.
I just thought
it sets him up to try to be the hero so he can look good. Because remember,
yes.
he's campaigning for president.
Yes, he is.
So at this time, hey, a stunt like this where he looks like the hero would be really advantageous. And so, and it kind of makes me wonder, because I talked about how, Keene is one of our suspects.
Yes.
Here, if he's tied in with the 7th Cavalry somehow, we don't know if Keene is a 7th Cavalry guy or if he's just working with them. Maybe Keene was the guy who planted the clan robe in Judd's closet.
Yes.
And then maybe there was a superhero costume in Judd's closet.
Mm-hmm.
Now we did kind of talk about whether Judd was in the 7th Cavalry.
Yes.
During the White Night.
Mm-hmm.
So we still obviously a lot of questions. This could go a lot of different directions, but
it really could.
But I think it's something to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so Laurie, meanwhile, decides to call the bomber's bluff, and she shoots the guy.
Yes,
shoots him right in the head, and surprise, surprise, the bomb starts counting down because, hey, it was a dead man switch. It was an active one.
So you aren't supposed to have a gun.
Yes.
First off, let's talk about
that. Well, remember we saw her smuggle that in. She had like an ankle holster.
Yeah, and I really, once again, Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
They show her putting an ankle holster on, and then you show her looking at Petey and going, "Look, give him your gun."
Right.
So, and she just
misdirection. Yeah.
Yeah, great misdirection. And then I loved the idea. Later, she goes, I didn't think. They're always bluffing.
Yep.
Didn't know this was.
Right.
So
whoops,
I
sorry.
thought, yeah, oops. Me. Exactly. Yeah. Sorry.
So do you
That's
think
the way it goes sometimes?
So do you think she did that to see what Angela would do? Like she did that deliberately, just to see how Angela would react to the situation.
I don't think so, but I think that's an interesting theory. I just thought of it as purely she wasn't thinking about it. She was just like, "Yep, that's what we're gonna do."
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a really, I don't know about that.
We'll see.
That gives me something to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you ponder that one? I'm glad. Actually, so it's just something I kind of wondered because because
good.
Obviously the next thing that happens is Angela steps up to the plate. Miss, I'm retired from the police force. Jumps right into action. Quick thinking on her part. So she grabs the bomber, drags him into the open grave where Judd's going to be buried, throws him in, and then pushes Judd's coffin with Judd inside, presumably.
Yes.
As a way to kind of block the explosion, to shield the force of the explosion. And, it goes off. Now, presumably, Judd's corpse is pretty much wrecked by this explosion.
Which, as a side note, you can't do a tox screening now.
Right. And that's something Laurie brings up to Angela later.
Yeah. Now, I was a little surprised that no one helped her.
Right.
Like, you've got a whole police force.
All these cops, right?
Yeah. And, you would think that someone, when saw what she'd done, would, okay, let me jump in there and grab two. But they're all like, oh.
Well, maybe they were focused on getting everyone out. All the other.
Good.
Maybe that's crowd safety.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
But you would think that there would have been a couple to try to help out with that.
Yes, absolutely.
But Angela's the one who steps up. Maybe because they knew Angela was there, she'd probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
do they all know do cops know each other?
We don't know. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that Looking Glass knows her.
Yeah.
And that's something he admits when Laurie interrogates him in in the interrogation pod of all places.
Yeah.
And he Looking Glass admits that, hey, Angela is Sister Knight.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So Angela obviously gives Laurie this death glare, like what the F were you doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of sets up some more friction later on, because they end up, or Laurie goes to the crypt, kind of check out that scene, and finds Angela there wearing night owl goggles, like the kind of the one she was wearing when she was looking at Judd's room.
Mm-hmm.
And she's looking for clues for the investigation for the 7th Cavalry.
Yeah.
And it's there that where Laurie starts dropping, the hints that she knows more about what Angela's doing. Like she talks about the wheelchair tire tracks at the tree where Judd was hung, and that she found a secret compartment because, hey, I always look for secret compartments.
Mm-hmm.
And that she knows that Angela was the last person in the bedroom since Judd died because she had talked to Jane.
Yes, and you are not the type that thinks.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So,
yeah.
And she suspects Angela removed something from that naked bust inside Judd's closet.
Yes.
And she calls Angela Sister Knight and kind of does this little intimidation line where basically she says she eats good guys for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And Angela's all mocking her, like she pauses for a moment, then does this like, "Oh, my stars!" Like
yes.
"Oh, I have the vapors."
Yes, and then just takes the coffee and just throws it. So I was like, poor Petey, he gave up his coffee for nothing.
Well, he didn't give it up. She took it from him. So Laurie takes Petey's coffee to kind of work Angela. Mm-hmm. And Angela's just like, we're not playing this game. We're not buddies.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was good. So what did you make of that whole scene?
I just love everything about it. I love that they're two smart people, and they're both they both know what's going on. I mean, they're aware of what's happening, and I just really I liked how they're doing everything that is kind of what's happening.
Right.
That it just seems really, really smart.
Yes.
That what they're doing. So I liked it a lot. I love the debate back and forth. I love how both of them are smart, but not. How do I put it?
They're evenly matched, I think.
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. Yes, absolutely.
All right, great.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about these scenes and these characters?
No.
All right.
Can't think of that.
All right.
Okay.
So let's move on. Third and final topic. Time out for fun.
Yeah.
So we had Through Being Cool, Girl You Want, Time Out for Fun. These are all Devo song titles.
Ah, okay. So, I would have guessed that, but I didn't know them. So, okay, nice.
That's what I've kind of thought. I didn't think because Devo's not exactly in your wheelhouse.
No, it's not.
But it's certainly in mine.
I accept their greatness.
So, yes. And so obviously with Devo being played so prominently in this episode, I had to do Devo song titles.
Yes, absolutely.
Time Out for Fun, and this is obviously Ozymandias we got to talk about. And more of his escapades, his entertainment, or whatever he calls it, recreational. That's it. His recreational activities. That's what he refers to it as.
Yes.
With Mr. Phillips and Miss Crookshank. So,
yes.
What'd you think of Adrian, who we get confirmation officially that Jeremy Irons is indeed playing Ozymandias?
He is awesome.
Yes.
Right? He is just so much fun. And you're sitting there going, what? Oh, hold on. He's he's still doing some kind of experiments.
Right.
We're not quite sure what that is. At least I can't figure it out. I don't know if
I
you
figured it
can.
out. I figured it out, but from the next episode. There's some
Okay.
big clues in episode 4.
Yes.
I know what he's doing, but
Yeah.
I think I know what he's doing. I'm pretty confident
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah.
but essentially what he's doing here without going into further detail, he's trying to create this protective suit, and then he kind of launches the Mr. Phillips.
Yeah.
Using this kind of catapult thing.
Yes.
And Mr. Phillips keeps coming back frozen solid.
Yes.
So despite the suit isn't protective enough, and that really pisses off Adrian enough. So he starts.
Oh,
he just starts kicking the thing, and he starts going like S-bomb and F-bomb and all this.
Yeah.
Just very uncharacteristically Adrian, but Adrian's very frustrated right now.
Very, very.
And when he starts taking off, he's like, "I need a thicker skin." And he goes off and rides across the countryside to this herd of buffalo, takes something out of uses a bow and arrow, kills one buffalo with a single shot to the eye.
Yeah, did the buffalo look enhanced at all, like genetically enhanced, or did they look just like regular buffaloes?
They kind of look like regular buffaloes to me.
Okay.
But as far as I know.
Okay.
So apparently he does this, and he gets, a warning shot from a character we kind of learn later is called the Game Warden.
Yes.
Which brings a whole new dimension to this mystery of what happened, what's going on with Adrian.
Well, we know the Game Warden likes tomatoes.
Right. Yeah, they apparently have a relationship. They essentially have what it looks to be some kind of détente.
Yes.
Where, like Adrian gives him tomatoes or whatever that he grows, and then presumably the Game Warden gives him fresh meat or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Buffalo meat. Who knows? So, but apparently Adrian killing this buffalo was and his recent behavior is apparently they have an agreement. Yes. And apparently all this activity from Adrian is a violation, appears to be an intent to violate that agreement.
Yes.
And apparently if it continues, he will face grave consequences.
Yeah.
The next shot he fires will not be at Adrian's feet, hinting that he'll kill Adrian if he continues in his activities. Adrian dictates this response to the Game Warden by having Miss Crookshanks type it. And, he says, interestingly enough, he says, "I'm not a Republic serial villain." Which
is a direct.
Yes.
Right? Direct comment from the comic and the movie.
Right. And this is our first real big hint that this is Adrian.
Yes.
Because, that was obviously the line that, where Adrian, as Ozymandias, tells Dan Dreiberg and Rorschach, "Look, I'm not a Republic serial villain.
Mm-hmm.
I did this attack, 15 minutes ago."
Right.
And so I thought that was a nice nod. And he says, like, "My activities are purely recreational."
Yes.
Like, I'm just doing this for sport or, in my enjoyment. Says, "I would never transgress the terms of our agreement. And if the Game Warden wishes to repeat his accusations in person, to do so." And then he signs the letter, Adrian Veit.
Yes.
Veit. And reveals his identity to the viewer. So we're like, oh my God, yes, officially it's Ozymandias, which we all knew.
Yes.
No big surprise there. So Crookshanks is going to send the letter off, and satisfied, Adrian says, "I'm going to hunt again at midnight." So he's not giving up so easily. And then we see Adrian go into his room and put on his old Ozymandias costume, as if this wasn't obvious enough. At this point, he actually puts on the Ozymandias costume, and he admires himself. So, what did you think? What did you think of that moment? Why is he just reliving old glories, or is he just bored out of his mind, or what's going on there? What do you think?
So, we don't know where he's at, but we do get the feeling that wherever he's at is not through his choice.
Yes.
At least I get that feeling.
Right.
And
this is more of that kind of prison vibe we talked about last time.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So, I'm captivated, pardon the pun.
Yes.
That is this, who is involved with this? Why is this, these clones or whatever they are, they kind of seem to be part helpers, but also they seem to be a little bit more than that.
I mean, they're kind of like, I think, some companions for Adrian to talk to.
Yeah.
So he's not isolated.
Yeah, I agree.
But Adrian's obviously very annoyed by them.
Yes,
and he treats them horribly.
He does.
As disposable, and there's a reason for that because we find out in our 4th episode, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, what's up with that? But anything else about the Ozymandias material?
No, I like that.
All right. So, do you have any favorite quotes?
I do. Let me pull them up.
All right. I don't want to step on any more of your quotes. Sorry about that.
No. The first one is, Tulsa is not Rome. You're a federal agent, not the blanking Lone Ranger.
Right.
Yes.
Not the effing Lone Ranger, yes.
Yes, it is.
That's a good one.
You got another one?
One? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, Laurie and Mr. Shadow. So when Laurie says, she basically busts Mr. Shadow. And she says, like, how'd you know we were going to be here? I mean, did you get an anonymous tip? And Mr. Shadow goes, what? And Laurie goes, OS. What if it was the FBI? Because what you're doing right now, vigilantism, it's illegal. So it would be super smart for federal law enforcement to tip you off that this bank was about to be robbed. Of course, you wouldn't know that you were being set up. Otherwise, you wouldn't walk into that trap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was fun that she was needling him about his being fooled.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah. Any other quotes?
Yes, I have 2 or 3.
Okay.
Wear a mirror, people are going to use it.
Yep.
When she stares at Looking Glass and kind of
kicks her teeth.
I've got sunflower seeds because she was eating sunflower seeds in the car.
Which I think is a nod to the X-Files because that's what Fox Mulder does.
Okay.
He sits in the car and eats sunflower seeds. I think that was kind of funny.
I think that is.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You want to do another one?
Yeah, I was going to do Joe Keene's line.
Okay.
Where he tells Laurie, on behalf of the American taxpayer, thank you for keeping our streets safe from rich a-holes playing dress up.
That was a good line. I like the do you know what's the difference between a masked cop and a vigilante? Me neither.
Yeah, that's after Angela says no.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I really liked it. And, you could tell the menace in that line, the threat, the veiled threat in that line.
Absolutely.
I liked Laurie talking to Looking Glass, basically trying to talk about what the pod is.
Yeah.
And Laurie goes, what does this thing do? She's grabbing his remote, being like essentially trying to control him a little bit, intimidate him. And Looking Glass goes, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And Laurie says, try me. And Looking Glass says, it determines and exposes negative cultural biases into which the suspect might not otherwise admit. And
good accent, Charles. Well done.
Thank you. I try my best. And Laurie says, so it's a racist detector.
Yeah.
And that just frustrates. So, yeah. Looking Glass is completely frustrated with Laurie in this episode.
So I have 2 more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't rule out extremist gophers.
That's a good one.
When they were talking about building. And then I think my favorite is Special Agent Laurie Blake. Who the F are you?
Right.
When she meets, Pirate Jenny and all this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that.
That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not at all impressed by these
Yeah.
cops as posing as superheroes almost.
Yeah.
Laurie's line to Angela at the end,
Yeah.
where she's trying to intimidate her, and Laurie goes, "Men who end up hanging from trees with secret compartments in their closets tend to think of themselves as good guys, and those who protect them think they're good guys too. But here's the thing about me, Sister Knight. I eat good guys for breakfast."
Yeah. Really nice.
Yeah, it was good. So
Yeah.
and then Angela's reaction is like, "Ooh," like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, scary." Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at all
Yeah.
intimidated.
This was a really, really great episode.
It is. So what's your rating for this one?
I give it 10 out of 10 racist detectors.
Nice.
Yeah,
This
nothing
is a
about
home
this
run.
episode I didn't enjoy. Yeah, I think it was exactly as you put it, a home run.
Yeah.
There's just everything. It brought the story forward. I liked every scene. Really, really a good payoff with the car falling at the end. The whole joke. Jean Smart has a world weariness when she's alone, but then when she's in front of everyone, she has this strong persona. Yeah, I like this one a lot. How about you?
Jean Smart is such a strong addition to this cast.
Yes,
and Watchmen now it's really clicking now. I know I'm still holding out hope that we'll get a really fantastic episode. We'll see if I'm right. But I give this one 9 out of 10 Dr. Manhattan vibrators.
Oh, very nice.
So
Good. All right, very good.
All right. Phantom Zone news, just really quick, because I know we're running a little bit long because of our delays and whatnot. Batwoman has cast Christina Wolf from the TV series The Royals as Julia Pennyworth, the daughter of Alfred Pennyworth.
Oh, that could be good.
Yeah. So Julia is an established DC Comics character, first created in back in the 80s, like early 80s, by Gary Conway and Don Newton in Detective Comics number 501 under the name Julia Remarque. It was basically, she was the daughter of Alfred Pennyworth and Mademoiselle Marie, a very obscure DC Comics character from back in the day. And the current version, meanwhile, has debuted in Batman Volume 2 by Scott Snyder. That's Volume 2, number 28, as Julia Pennyworth, a.k.a. Penny 2, because she's also helping Batman as kind of tech support. And this version was created by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and artist Greg Capullo.
Okay, good.
So she is an established character. This isn't just somebody like some next generation that they cooked up for the show. And so it's kind of cool that I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with Julia, because with Lucius Fox's son, kind of serving the Alfred tech support role.
Yeah, he's been really good. Batwoman's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
So we'll see. We'll see if she becomes a recurring character or not. So we'll see. But she is at least going to be in one episode coming up. So that's all I have for this time. We don't have fan mail. So guys, write to us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts on Watchmen. We can't be the only people watching this show. I've seen the ratings.
Yeah. So Charles, if they want to write to us, how could they?
Well, they could write to us at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. We want to hear what you thoughts about the show, or if you're enjoying the podcast here, what we're doing. Please let us know. We'd love to find out. We're very curious that way. And otherwise, you can reach us on Twitter at PhantomZoneCast, or on Facebook, the Phantom Zone Podcast, or on Instagram at Phantom Zone Podcast. And Jesse, how about you? Where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook at Set Lusting Bruce. I'm sorry, at Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. You can hear me talk Doctor Who with Charles on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. We are currently discussing some Big Finish audios, and Charles also has guest companions. They are going through both classic and modern Doctor Who. Charles, you will appreciate the fact that in an upcoming episode of one of my other podcasts, Set Listing Bruce, we spend several minutes. I have a guy who does an Electric Light Orchestra podcast,
right?
And we spend about 10 minutes talking Doctor Who to begin with.
Excellent.
So yeah, it was kind of fun. So it was a fun little crossover. So yes, and as I said,
I have to check that out.
Bruce. Yeah, Set Listing Bruce with where we talk with music fandom throughout the world. And then Titan Talk is the podcast where Charles and I are talking about the DC Universe Direct series, Titans. And hint, we should be seeing that out this week. After a slight dip, I think they took a step upward. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about this.
Yeah, hopefully they're digging themselves out of the hole. And we'll talk about that on Titan Talk. We're going to talk about that actually tomorrow.
Yes, we are.
We're recording this on a Sunday, and then we'll talk Titan Talk on Monday. And then we're also going to try and play catch-up on Watchmen here.
Yes, we are.
So there will be another episode of Phantom Zone podcast tomorrow, hopefully. So if you get this today, check us out again tomorrow, because we'll have our next episode of the Phantom Zone podcast, 168.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for that. Speaking of which, as for me, you can reach me on Twitter at Charles Skaggs or on Instagram at Charles Skaggs. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of geeky things. Come on, you.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. We're talking Watchmen. We're talking The Boys, Krypton, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news. News of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Jesse and I are going to be recording another episode of that next week.
Mm-hmm.
And doing our third of our the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 3 set from Big Finish Audios.
Yes.
We'll finish that up. And then also the aforementioned Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where we're talking Titans, and oddly enough, and also Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, where we're talking about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, movies, etc., etc. So please check that out. We have a ball doing it, and I really hope you guys enjoy it a lot. So everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Phantom Zone podcast. We really appreciate it, and please, if you're so inclined, please share this with people. Let them know that we're out here. We'd love to get your help. We kind of want to grow the podcast. We can't really do that without you. So we could definitely appreciate it if you enjoy us. Please spread the word, and come on back for episode 168. Like I said, just come back tomorrow, where we're going to talk. If you don't like my story, write your own. The fourth episode of Watchmen, and it's a big one, another big one, where we get the introduction of a new character who looks all kinds of enigmatic, Lady True.
Yes. Excited about seeing her story.
Yes, so we'll talk about Lady True next time, and lots more details of the mystery, a little more of the puzzle pieces come together, lots more with kind of figuring out my theory on Ozymandias, where he is, and some other things. So you want to come back, and we definitely would love having to hear from you. So drop us a line in the meantime. Let us know what you think. And anything else, Jesse, before we sign off?
No, just this was a lot of fun. They're doing a great job of telling the story. I really, really do feel like they have found the right tone to be original, yet very much respectful of the original source material. This is just great stuff.
Yeah, ever say, with She Was Killed by Space Junk, everything's clicking on all cylinders now.
Yes.
And it's turning out to be a really great series. So we only have 6 more episodes left to talk about. But I think it's going to be a really enjoyable ride. And who
Absolutely.
knows? Maybe we'll get a season 2. Who knows? But if nothing else, we get 6 more episodes. So how great is that?
Absolutely.
So everybody, thank you for listening, and come on back for next episode 168 of the Fandom Zone podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.